Finally, Salamangreat is getting some recognition out here for topping this event. Make sure you guys smash the loving crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Year of the Fire, baby. We are I feel like knees deep heading on into this at this point, and I think this regional tells a crazy story of what the future holds here for the game. Your most represented deck in the top cut of this event was actually Rescue Ace. I'm not all that surprised to be talking about Rescue Ace today as, you know, that highest represented deck, but let's call what it is at this point in time. You know that this deck is only going to get stronger with the release of the next set. You already have an idea of what's coming with the next set, so why not just start playing Rescue Ace right now, right? Start practicing. You only change a couple of cards. And then we had double Fire Kings in the top cut of this event, which is actually kind of cool to see that as well. Fire Kings definitely showcasing that they're gaining a lot of momentum right now. Actually, Fire Kings won this regional. So once again, I'm not surprised to see, you know, how things are kind of pressuring with the meta and how this deck is kind of coming out of the fold here, doing its thing. Now, what were your one-ups here? Now, we did have a Centurion deck. I did manage to fall into the tournament. I'm not all that surprised, though, but a lot of people do continuously punt it around, and they're like, you know, Robbie, Centurion's not that good. I think people just, as long as you turbo brain dead, you know, think that's the only way to play the deck, then yes, it's going to fail. And then we had Salamangreat out here actually doing quite a lot. I mean, coming into 5th place might not seem like a lot, but it's still solid. All right, we don't have Promethean Princess yet. We don't have a lot of the other gas that kind of comes along with it. So that's kind of cool. And of course, we had Tyr sitting at the dinner table for once. You know, everybody's household favorite crazy good deck. Yeah, that's your breakdown. A little bit more heavy meta, but that's fine. Let's pass on over to deck list. Our event here appears to be Fire Kings. First thing that draws my immediate attention into this is the one-of Droll and Lockbird that this build is playing, which is kind of cool, all right? I'm not going to take away from that, you know, as long as you get the chance to see, man, as long as you see it, right? That's all that really matters. We're on double Tenki. Keep in mind that, you know, once things kind of shift here, you know, Tenki will become Bonfire. You'll have so much more consistency in the future generations of this deck. You're not too worried about things. Right now, 2 Garunix appears to be about the way to go. I think that's fine as well. We are on triple Fire King Sanctuary, double Fire King Island for this, which is also pretty good. I see that we do side the 2 additional Droll and Lockbirds. That way, you know, you can kind of bring them on in if you need to. It's always going to come down to preference and what's, you know, ruining your day in the current format. I also see that once all is said and done, we can also bring in the power of skill drain here and fully devastate the opponent. Yeah, you all know and love the fact that we have a skill drain deck still in the format, and more people continuously go, yeah, this is great. Unfortunately, I perfectly understand why people get frustrated with this card, because, you know, now that we have a deck that's kind of ignorant to it again, off we go to the races. Next up here, we have our Rescue Ace good stuff. Now, the first thing, man, what is with these one-ups? Now, this build playing the one-of enemy controller, I feel like is fine. You know, once again, we talk about the interactions with being able to move your opponent's cards on over to your field, and then you can kind of safely play the game however you need to. All kind of works out at the end of the day. I also see that we are playing a Talents. Okay, so post-side decking, we're not even doing Thrust. It's just, you see the one-ofs, you see the one-ofs on a 41-card deck. I also see that we are playing the mighty Crossout Designator as well, and of course 2 more copies of the Econ. I also see that with the Crossouts we are playing the Purely Leap here. This is typically the same thing that we were seeing from Pack way back in the day. You know, being able to stop the Purely player from leveling up their cat into the huge devastating draw effects. You know, it is pretty strong. And unfortunately, with the way that the format is right now, you know, your opponent getting those key draws off of this can really destroy your day. So you need to find a way to kind of allow you the chance to play the game. And I think that this is going to be one of the only real methods to do things, unless, obviously hand trapping your opponent out of the room, but that's not always going to happen, So good stuff to see that Rescue Ace kind of taking some interesting steps to make sure that it can still sit here at the dinner table. All right, next up here is Salad. Now, I'm going to be honest with you here. Looking at the current iteration of Salad, most people wouldn't think that this deck is really good, but with some little interesting tech choices here. We do have the one Salamangreat charge. We also are playing the one copy of the Fire Recovery in here as well. So honestly, I think a lot of people look at Fire Recovery right now and they're like, I don't really like this. I mean, that's fine, but Fire Recovery helps this deck out so much for its recovery plays. It's really good. Now, this is so cool to see. We've seen deck lockdown show up previously, but it hasn't been really a huge part of the meta. I mean, it's more so niche than anything, but when you're able to establish deck lockdown, tell your opponent, no, you're not adding from your deck to your hand, nor are you getting that special summon from the deck, that is actually really crucial, especially with the current iterations of a lot of things right now. Cutting off your opponent from those additional floating effects really does matter a lot. So I think the deck lockdown is something you might want to consider a lot more of. Once again, devastating floodgates, especially after Salad goes first, does everything they need to, and then you're able just to drop deck lockdown on them. I don't think they're really, trying to find a way out of that per se. So interesting stuff. Current iteration for Sal, pretty good, especially more techie choices like this. Okay. Next up here, we have, it's Rescue 8 Nuts tier. The fact we're on 43 is kind of interesting, sure. We have one Hobby Triple City. That's pretty normal at this point with the 2 King Sarcophagus. Well, yeah, once again, these ratios are massively straightforward at this point. Most of these builds that do tend to look at the King Sarcophagus stuff, and once again, 43 is not going to hurt the deck whatsoever. You have so much room in a build like this that you can kind of navigate around choices and have it work out. Also, double Scream, I think, is fine. The fact that this build is also main decking the triple Super Poly to make sure that, you're able to tear through the more annoyances that your opponent, might be aiming to set up. Okay, I also see that we have Yield Spellbounds in here, and of course, somebody finally brought Wallow to the party. Don't really see a lot of Wallow right now, so okay, I like this. Good stuff. Next up here, we have Rescue Ace. Alright, so this build's playing some pretty saucy stuff. Yield Dimensional Barrier to ensure that, you can shut off your opponent from, playing. Oh, God, you gotta love these good floodgates. Now, this is kind of cool. We're also playing a Book of Eclipse in here as well. Call it what it is. You might not really like this, but this definitely helps ensure that, you can shut off your opponent. All right, Book of Eclipse I thought was long since gone from the format, but the fact that somebody still has this in a side deck along the way, I don't know, maybe there is something to still seeing Book of Eclipse running around in the format. Also, this build's on 45 as it is. You've already extended out the deck way more than I feel like you should have for a lot of the room. So, okay, outside of that, I personally don't have a problem with 45, but you've also got Book of Moons in here as well. You've got your tech choices pretty spread out. And then last but not least here, we have more Fire Kings. Now this is doing the Tri-Brigade stuff in here, which a lot of people have been wondering, why did Shirag blow up through the roof? Well, once again, you have Beast Warrior synergy out the wazoo in this deck, which means you can now take advantage of the Tri-Brigade stuff and now Double Dragon Lords, Frigette Bear Broom, the interruptions that you get through Revolt. Suddenly these cards are a lot more enticing to the average duelist, and that puts a lot more pressure on the opponent to, have to find immediate outs. So the fact that this build finally has a top, might have had another one somewhere along the way, but it's really cool to see that people are trying to innovate this deck, and they're actually doing so, which is pretty cool to see. So that is your remote duel regional breakdown for today. What do you guys think? Please comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.